Howdy folks, how you going? Welcome to the brewery. Tasting day on a beer that a few people have been a bit keen to see. The Crunchie Imperial Stout, the Imperial Dessert Stout. Brewed with some Cadbury Crunchie chocolate. As remember, it was 9 bars. And this was beer number 5 in the Brew Ventures series. Hadn't done a Brew Venture for a while. This one came to me as I discussed on the brew day. One morning while I was rousing from my sleep, and it progressed from there. So it's a kit-based brew. Link up the top to the original brew day. But let's have a bit of a talk about what is in here, just to refresh everybody's mind. There's 2 glasses, and we'll get to that shortly. This was based on a Morgan's Dockside Stout kit, extract can, and built up from there. So it's essentially a kits and bits. So added to the kit was a whole whack of dry malt. There was dark dry malt, a couple of kilo of light dry malt, some dextrose, kilo thereof, and we did a grain steep of some half kilo malted oats, some chocolate wheat, some crystal medium, some roast barley. There's also been some lactose thrown into the mix. And I've also got table sugar. Why have I got table sugar there? Anyway, that would be explained in the brew day video, exactly what the table sugar was there for. It's weird, plain old sugar. Anyway, I don't actually remember exactly what I used it, but it's there. So that's all we need to worry about. So there was a bit of a grain steep. Malts are all added in and put in. As I said, 9 Cadbury Crunchies went into the mix. Now, as I said, I was trying to make a crunchy dessert stout the idea came, and I've done a follow-up video about a month ago. It's been 7 weeks today since this fella, which is how the beer finished up, has finished fermenting. Started at 1096 was the original gravity. The brew came down to 1036, and that's where she stopped. She didn't want to move from there. I was estimating maybe a 1028 finish. Didn't happen. That's where she stopped. So that gave me a beer which ended up at 7.9% by memory. Yeah, 7.9%, which is a bit short of the 9.5, I think, which was what the target was. 9-ish, yeah, mid 9s. And I didn't want to have a huge amount of a beer of that strength, so I kegged into the 9 litre keg, that batch. She's in the fridge there. I've had that sampling a month ago, and I've had maybe 2 small glasses of it since. This half here, which is what left in the fermenter, I added 2 grams of dry enzyme, glycoamylase, into the fermenter, and let it run a bit longer. And It sat for another 11 days at that point, and it dropped down to 1020, and that's where I've then bottled off about a dozen bottles. So it's still got a lot of body in it, and this I have not tried. It's come out of the box where it's been sitting, gone into the fridge. It's been in the fridge for the last 2 hours. It's spent about half an hour in the freezer, and then it's been in the fridge since. So both of these are quite cold for a nice dessert stout at the moment, but I'll have a look at them initially and then I might let them sit for a little bit and finish off. So this one has ended up at 10.1% alcohol, a bit stronger than was originally intended. So as you can see, in black, they are as dark as all get out. Certainly the darkest beer I've ever brewed, and this was thick. This beer was so thick initially. There's a lot of comments. We're going to put pictures up and stuff about motor oil, and it was like oil, and not even good oil, bad. Oil you're draining out of your motor after it's done 30,000 k's. It was thick and that has settled. And even in the keg, that first tasting I did was still quite thick and oily. It has thinned out a little bit. But 1036, that's a big beer. You see, she poured a lovely head. It's holding them. Beautiful head. The bottle version, not quite so much. Now there's not a lot of nose. It's very light on the nose for what's in here, for the amount of stuff that's in there. I didn't mention that I did put some topaz. 20 grams of topaz went into a boil during the process. Not that I would expect it to really do a lot. 12 IBU hiding in this sort of beer. It's 57 IBU is the estimate in this fella. So anyway, let's have a bit of a guzzle. I said, it's still a big beer. It's heavy. There's a lot of oomph there. It's almost like drinking a bloody milkshake. It's definitely got some conditioning to do. It's 7 weeks old. 7 weeks to the day since this was kegged. This rich chocolate, rich malt. There's a bit of booze. There's a little bit of slickness, but not much. Not an oily slickness, but there's definitely it feels more like a boozy sort of slickness in the mouth. There's a little bit of earthiness and hint of spice coming from the topaz. Not a massive amount. It's not rough, but it's not real smooth yet either. mind you, it is really smooth. It is fairly smooth for its age. 7 weeks for a Imperial Stout is very young, and I really wouldn't expect this beer to be coming into its own till for at least another couple of months. And I will do a follow-up on this because I'm certainly not going to get through this keg in any great hurry. But I said I do think it needs some time to sit and age. It's very drinkable as it is. I've certainly had worse commercial Imperial Stouts. There's no doubt about that. It's a tad confronting without being completely in your face, but still, it's also quite drinkable. Yeah. I said to some degree the idea was to try and get some sort of crunchy vibe or feel going on, and I mean I've had plenty of discussions with quite a few people since I've made the beer about that there may have been better ways of getting a chocolate honeycomb vibe into the beer than actually sticking these things in there. And I understand that, I get that, and those comments are probably correct to some degree. There are ways of going around getting those flavours into a beer, but it wasn't necessarily about the flavours, it was about using this thing in the beer. And there is a hint, the honeycomb down there, a little hint, there's plenty of chocolate. There's chocolate malt, there's chocolate in the stout mix, there's chocolate coming from the dry malt. There's chocolate coming from the cacao powder that was added, which I didn't mention before because it's not listed in the malt, it's down here. There's plenty of chocolate there. There's a little bit of honeycomb. And it's definitely drinkable. It's not a beer you're going to be rushing on. So, anyway, let's step over here. I'm interested to see now how this is. That's very big, very heavy. It's holding a nice, solid little head there. This one's, as it sat, it sort of developed a little thin head on top. It's grabbing onto the glass quite nice, and it's holding itself there as just a very thin, light creamy head. Now, so the nose on this is a little bit lighter, which is not entirely surprising because we've stripped 16 points of gravity out. So it's going to take some of the malt and flavour from it. The result of taking those extra points out is this fella is sitting at, as I calculate, 10.1%. Now that's allowing for all the extra. Okay, the bottles, they were bottled straight off the fermenter. There's nothing added, nothing added priming wise. Now, there's a bit of sludge in the bottle and it's not showing up now because I've stirred it. When I pulled the bottle out to put it in the fridge, there was a noticeable layer of chocolate and solids in the bottom of the bottle from letting it sit. And the same with this. This has gone, a month ago when I did the first tasting, it poured with a light chocolatey colour, and you could see it was full of chocolate and all that sort of stuff, which has now dropped out. That's dropped out even further. Oh, that just sticks. It just sticks to you. It looks like it doesn't want to actually come out of your mouth. Okay, it's drinking very much the same. It is lighter in the body. The mouthfeel is very similar. It's still very, very full. Like I said, it wants to sort of cling a little bit more to your mouth, more so than the original straight up version. But that little bit of there's a little bit more booziness in this. Yeah, there's definitely more noticeable alcohol in that. And again, it's 2%, it's 2.2% ABV stronger. So that is to be expected. A little bit stronger note. But again, it's not a wicked, nasty, alcohol vibe. It's there and noticeable. Yeah, and like all beers of that strength, it's part of the character and the overall feel of the beer. So I'm reasonably happy with how that's turned out. There's probably not as much of the noticeable chocolate and sweet malts in that because of that slightly reduction in the gravity. And realistically, I would have really liked somewhere in between. I think this is possibly going to say possibly sitting a little bit higher than I probably would have wanted, but I can't. I certainly can't complain about where it's sitting and how it's finished, because it has pretty much given me what I was after. Big dessert stout. Has the crunchy flavour came through? Well, not particularly. And I said that maybe wasn't, I said probably wasn't really exactly what was going to happen. But at the end of the day, I've got a beer, a big beer, made with crunchies, that doesn't taste like it's got a mountain of fucking fake flavours in there trying to achieve it. I haven't got the flavours. I haven't got the flavours that may have been originally, thought of, and what might have been part of the initial conception, and what I was hoping to sort of get. But at the same time, I never really thought about the beer as being tasting like a Crunchie. It was just more using the Crunchie in there to get and see what sort of finish that got. In hindsight, I would have been better off if I'd brewed this just as a standard stout. With the tin, with a kilo and a half of malt, maybe a little, maybe a kilo of malt, a little bit of grain, and a whack of Crunchies. And I think these would have had more chance to actually come up in the flavour. I think the whole dessert, going for the dessert Imperial, that's just thrown too much extra stuff into the beer for these to have any impact. Now, I can't complain because any reason to have a Crunchie is a good thing. And it was funny, just before I sat down to do the video, I realised I didn't have a Crunchie. I had to go and do an emergency dash to the local servo to get one. The things I do for you folks at home. But aside from the whole, can you taste the Crunchies? The beer itself, I think has come up quite well. I get Imperial Stout is not going to be for everybody. Not everybody wants a 9 or 10% stout. And as evidence from the recent tasting on the wedding porter, the Imperial wedding porter, where it's now 4 years down the track and I've still got a few bottles floating around. It's not a beer you're going to go, I'm going to sit down and have myself a bloody nice Imperial. Not something you do too often. But I think as a brewer, it's a style I think everyone should have a bit of a go at it, even if it's just once. But they're not the holy grail of brewing or anything like that. But it's certainly one of those beers that falls into that sort of thing of something you need to have there. It's the same as when you're buying commercial beer. You buy your XPAs and your IPAs and your double IPAs, and you'll drink them fairly regularly. But it's nice to have something just a little bit more, let's say outrageous, sitting in the fridge. Just those moments when you want to, finish off a night, or sometimes you just want to have that quiet sipping drink. Might be on your own, or might be with friends. But certainly it could be New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve's a good one. So no, I certainly do it. I've done it more than once. Sat with two of us here, where we are at the time. And she had a nice Imperial over that midnight sort of a break. But as brewers, I think you should at least give one a crack, at least once in your life. And this is certainly a beer that even an extract brewer can do. Would I prefer to do it as a all grain? Yeah, I probably would. But realistically, I don't think you're picking that's kit based and realistically about 80% extract. There's about 900 grams, I think, 800, 900 grams of actual grain in the brew, which at the end of the day is probably contributing about 10% of the final product. So you can run an extract no problem at all. It's just interesting sitting and looking at it right now. Even though the original version, which is holding a much better head and poured a better head initially, isn't really lacing the glass. This version, which had the dry enzyme in it to push it all the way out, is leaving some nice lacing. And I've got to say, as this warming, those chocolate flavours are becoming a little bit more prominent, and the boozy note is settling a little bit, or perhaps I'm just getting, and I'll be honest with you, I'm certainly feeling the effects of, down in the best part now of two Imperials. But the malt and the chocolate, and even the sweetness from the lactose, and a little bit of honeycomb, it's more pronounced now as it's warmed up a little bit. The alcoholic edge is coming off it, and I sort of expected it to maybe become more, more obvious as it warmed, but it seems it's going the other way. The alcohol is becoming less noticeable as the beer is warming. Now, let's say this has come out of the keg fridge, which is sitting on at 3 degrees. This was sitting about the same temperature out of the fridge. Fridge sits around 3 degrees, and it probably got down to that no problem. So as they're warming, and ideal service on this sort of beer would be, realistically 11 to 14 degrees. Cellar temps, and that's probably getting somewhere in the realms. We'll have a look and see where it's sitting at. Okay. Oh, pardon me. 13.2 degrees. Now that's $12.4. So at the moment they're sitting at that temperature where really ideally you'd want to be drinking this beer at. Now granted, you can't keep an Imperial at that specific temperature because it's going to come up to room temp. Room temp at the moment in here is it was just showing 20 degrees, which seems to be a little bit bloody warm, but 15 seems more like it. Not real warm in here just at the moment. It's a bit of a cooler day today. Got chilly, the wind's coming off the snow and whatnot. 15s, yeah. So yeah, ideally I think you'd be wanting to serve this around 7-8 degrees, and then allow it to warm. But it's definitely opening up the flavours as it is warming. And the fusel, those they aren't fusel. Those alcohol notes are becoming less obvious. They're still there. You're not going to hide them. Very few beers that will hide yeah, high ABV and high the alcohol. Yeah. So that's them. I'm going to wrap it up simply by saying this. Crunchie Imperial Dessert Stout. We have not succeeded to make a beer taste like a Crunchie. Not completely. I certainly feel there is a hint of Crunchie there. I can get the Crunchie vibe. There's very little. And if you didn't know it was there, I don't think you'd pick it. Certainly not enough that you can really pump that that's a crunchy beer. As far as an extract-based Imperial Stout goes, I think it's a winner. And I think the basic recipe is worth looking at if you're interested in making that sort of beer, and that's where your brewing's at. Even if you're an all-grain brewer, I think this is an option to look at, because it's difficult for most brewers to make a decent sized batch of this strength beer. So it can be quite restrictive. Even like if you're using a Brewzilla or something along those lines, which obviously a lot of brewers are using, you're going to struggle to get much more than a 14 litre batch of this within that unit. It's just not possible to get that amount of grain and stuff in there to get to this level. So this method allows you to get this style at a decent quality, while still using minimum amount of equipment. At the end of the day, it was a stovetop with a Woolies 19 litre pot. might not have even been the 19 litre pot. I've got the recipe. I've got the bloody video just sitting here. Yeah, no, I think I did use the 19 litre pot. It's hard to say. Yeah, no, I think it's a 19 litre. But either way, it's achievable from a kit, from an extract base. It's something that every brewer can do without any problem. So anyway, guys, it's been sweet spending some time with you going over these beers. Brew Venture number 5, quite possibly the most adventurous brew venture to date. Certainly not the last. There's another one over there in the fermenting fridge, about to go into a cold crash. Tropical stout with the caramelised pineapple and the coconut water. These are the things we do at Little John's, and that all happens with the help of the people who support the channels, the Patreons. Guys, thumbs up to all you fellas, because in all reality, if it wasn't for the Patreon support, I wouldn't be brewing this sort of stuff. So that helps. So there's links down the bottom if you're interested in checking that out. If you subscribe to the channel already, thumbs up. If you're not, hit the subscribe button. If you like what you've just seen, and what's not to like, give me a thumbs up. Comments and questions down the bottom as always. But for now, I'm Little John. Now, if I'm not mistaken, pouring equal parts of that and that together should give me somewhere around what I was originally intending to get, or what I thought I was going to get. I suggest giving it a whirl. But why the fuck not? But anyway, guys, thanks for joining me. Till I see you again, we brewing beer, when we're drinking beer, or we drinking... No, when we far out. Yeah, there's something for an outtake reel. You ever bothered to do one. Let's try again. This is what happens after 2 glasses of Imperial Stout. You stop giving a fuck about anything. But anyway, till I see you again, brewing beer, drinking beer, or talking beer. Good brewing. Catch you later.